Hi, welcome to the Acting for Stage and Screen podcast. My name's James Harvey, and I'm the programme leader of a brand new acting degree in York, created in partnership with ALRA, the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts. It's called the BA in Acting for Stage and Screen, ALRA endorsed. More on that in a bit. The idea of this podcast is that I'll be interviewing loads of successful professionals within the theatre, TV and film industries. Lots of actors, but also people working in other areas of the industry too. Directors, writers, producers and so on. Through chatting with my guests, I want to find out about their careers, their methods, and to get an honest insight into what it's like working professionally in stage and screen. I hope you enjoy the pod. And if you're someone who wants to train professionally as an actor, then take a look at our course. Follow us on Instagram at York College BA Acting and go to our webpage to find out more. You can apply on UCAS course code BA45. We're auditioning this year and we start teaching in September 2021. Maybe you'll be with us. I'll give you some more information on the degree at the end of the pod. But for now, I hope you enjoy this episode of the Acting for Stage and Screen podcast. Welcome to the Acting for Stage and Screen podcast. Today's guest is the actor and producer, Mhairi Calvey. Mhairi started her professional acting career with a bang, appearing in the Oscar-winning movie Braveheart, directed by and starring Mel Gibson, when she was 5 years old. Since then, she's gone on to appear in over 20 films and TV dramas, been nominated for this year's National Film Awards, become a film producer and director, and she's a former York College student too. Mhairi, welcome to the Acting for Stage and Screen podcast. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me. And thank you for the nice introduction.
Oh, you're entirely welcome. So let's start at the beginning then. The question that you're probably most commonly asked in interviews. You were part of Hollywood history when you filmed Braveheart, and particularly that classic Scottish thistle scene full of symbolism and stirring Scottish sentiment. What can you remember about that Braveheart experience? Or can you remember anything? You were so young.
Yeah, I actually remember it quite well because I kind of got into it in quite a lucky way. They were looking all over the States and all over the UK for the right actress, and the casting directors eventually started looking around all the islands in Scotland, and I was on the Isle of Arran, and the casting director, Patsy Pollack, who was like the Nina Gold of the time, was driving past, and I walked out of my primary school into the playground, and they spotted me and stopped. And,
oh wow, that's a proper dream story, isn't it? I didn't think that really happened.
It's a probably discovered story. Yeah, so that's how I got the role, and a week later I then was filming in Fort William, and I remember it as clear as day. Just being on set, it raining a lot, sitting on Mel Gibson's director's chair and eating lots of nice American donuts.
That was probably the big highlight at 5 years old. Did you work directly with Mel Gibson as a director then, or was it a second unit? Or
no, it was directly with him.
How was that? Were you aware of who he was at that time?
My mum sort of explained it to me, and I kind of, when we walked onto the set, I remember there's just thousands of people on these big Hollywood sets, and he started walking towards us, and I leant over to my mum and I was like, "Is that Mel Gibson?" And my mum had this huge crush on him at the time, and he was like, "Yeah," but he just had such a presence that you just knew he was in charge. There was just this incredible presence about him. But yeah, he worked with me every day that I was filming, and it was great. I would rehearse the scenes with him on the set, but every time I would get close to him, I would start smiling, because even when you're young, you're going to smile at Mel Gibson.
I suppose so. Do you remember any little snippets of advice you were given, directorial advice at that time? Because it's that, in common with a lot of kind of child acting for screen moments, there's just a real naive truthfulness in the performance of you and the other child actors in that scene. It's it's still, I watched it again the other day, it's still a very affecting scene.
Thank you. I think one thing I do remember is he would let the camera just roll, and as a child, you really believe the situation. it's very easy as a child to believe things. So when I saw the graves of James, who played young Wallace, crying, I thought, oh no, his parents have died. That's just how I, as a child, translated it in my head. And actually, that bit's in the film because I lean over and I'm sort of biting my lip and I look at him, and that was just a genuine reaction of, oh no, I wonder what's happened there. But I remember being really anxious about picking the thistle because it was really hard to break, to get it off. So I always remember feeling really anxious whenever I had to perform that section. And they'd be like, okay, and break the thistle. And I remember panicking in case I couldn't do it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of years of Scottish symbolic history wrapped up in that, whether you can break that or not, isn't there? I say really interesting, actually, that kind of naive authenticity, I suppose, of the child actor. It's kind of what we're searching for ever since, isn't it? That just the facility to be able to believe in the truthfulness of the moment, and life gets in the way and your inhibitions get in the way. But I guess, yeah, you're always kind of trying to refine that as an actor.
I think that's the thing. As an adult, we overthink things, and children just don't. They just believe a situation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it was it was a great experience, and there were some nice moments. There were moments. I remember we had to go from the top of the scene again. So you're asked to go to your first mark, and Mel Gibson said, "Barry, can you go to your mum?" And I went, "Which mum? The real one or the fake one?" And I just remember everybody laughing. And at the time I was like, why is everybody laughing? But they just didn't expect a 5-year-old to have clocked that. I've got my real mum over there and I've got a fake mum.
Yeah. Oh, early professionalism. Did that experience make you want to be an actor right from then? Had it already been something that you'd thought of, or how did it impact your kind of future ambition?
I think there was already part of me that wanted to be an actor. There's another actor in my family, so I think there's something in my blood anyway that wants to perform. And as a kid, I loved watching black and white movies, and I actually used to try and skive Mondays off school to watch Fred Astaire films.
Nice.
All these old black and white movies.
I mean, what better time could you spend? It's better than first period maths or something, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And my mum realised that I was skiving. She was like, the pattern is every Monday and these movies are on. So actually the day she sent me into school is the day the casting director spotted me.
Oh, wow.
Mum sent me into school even if I was not well that day because she was sick of me skiving to watch movies, and then I got on one.
There's an amazing fairy tale serendipity to that story.
I know, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah. A lot of young wannabe actors will hopefully be listening to this interview, and I'm sure they'd recognise the dream, if not perhaps recognise the fortune you had of just wandering out and being spotted. But they'd be really interested to hear sort of what happened next then. So you'd been a child star of a international multi-Oscar winning movie. What happened next? How did you make your way into the industry? Did you carry on acting? Was there a break?
So after that, I had another audition for a lead role in a film called Joan of Arc, and I was auditioned to play the young Joan of Arc, and I got down to the final 2, and I didn't get it because I wasn't actually religious, so that swayed the decision. So things like that can really sway decisions and things, so that's always something to be aware of.
So they're expecting method acting from a 5-year-old.
Yeah. And my mum spoke to the casting director of that movie, who's still one of the top casting directors today, and she sort of advised not to go down child star route. That it's incredibly difficult, and unless you have a lot of money, which my mum didn't at the time. My parents, had normal jobs, so they didn't have loads of funds to fly me around the world auditioning for things. So she sort of recommended that it's better for me to have a normal childhood, and then if I want to later go into it, I've got a really nice platform to go back to, and got a great start anyway. Were
you very accepting of that at the time?
Yes, I don't think I was kind of aware. I was just too young.
Yeah.
So I remember auditioning for Joan of Arc, and I remember being really upset that I didn't get it. And then after that, I had this idyllic childhood on this island in Scotland. So I mean, my childhood was wonderful.
I mean, that sounds amazing. And actually, retrospectively, when you look at all the litany of child star casualties, over the years, and think, well, that could have been me, but actually I was running around in this, as you say, this idyllic childhood on an island. Probably very thankful.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. And it's after that, and I went to high school in Yorkshire. And then I went to York College.
Yeah.
So after high school, I was like, I just want to act. That's all I want to do.
Well, as listeners will know, if you want to act, no better place to go than York College, and maybe the BA Acting for Stage and Screen Hour are endorsed. But let's get back to Mhairi. so you studied here at York College and started to make your way professionally. Went to drama school, and what happened next?
So I did 3 years of drama school, and then when I graduated, it's out into the very big, scary world of trying to be an actor. And it was a shock because I had such a lucky start, and a start that doesn't normally happen for anybody. The way I got Braveheart, it doesn't happen, and it's not likely to happen that easily again. And I think it's worth sort of young people realizing that sort of thing is a one-off. But I sort of went into the industry completely not really knowing what to expect, and I struggled for quite a while before I started getting work, and it's been a big learning curve.
Yeah. But as you say, really important for young actors or young early career aspirant actors to realize that very thing, that actually it's more likely to be a struggle than anything else, even for someone who did have a really lucky start. But that is difficult. But it's, if you keep going, if you keep believing, and you keep actively working towards developing your contacts and improving your craft, then eventually you will yield results, and hopefully anyway. And Mhairi has. You have got your career going, and you've played some really interesting roles on screen, Mhairi. I was really interested in the film Alan, in which you played a character who couldn't be much more removed from sweet little Murran in Braveheart. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I just got a phone call from my agent saying, you've been offered this role. Would you like it? And I read the script and I was like, yeah, this is so far removed from anything I've done. And it's such an important topic because it's about child abuse and animal abuse. So I really wanted to be involved.
And you play the abusive parents, don't you, in that film?
Yeah, so I play an alcoholic mother, and I'm not very nice and very abusive to both the dog and the little boy. The dog was never hurt on the set, let me just make that clear.
There is a scene when Mhairi propels the dog from several stories up a block of flats, isn't there? And well, to its death, obviously. Was that difficult to film?
Yeah, well, what we had to do is, so we had a fake dog, obviously, for that bit, but we had the real dog come in, and I just was holding her. And she was lovely. We would always cuddle. I'm a big animal lover, so she was quite happy. And then I just took her as far as turned to the railing, but she was still obviously on my side of the railing with me. And then we'd cut, and I would give them the real dog, and then they'd give me the fake dog, which was spray painted to get the right color and had weights put in it for the heavy, so it would drop properly. Yeah. And so I then threw the fake dog over the side.
And see, it looks seamless, of course, in the film. So, yeah, the tricks of the trade being revealed here. For those of you who are worried about dog murders on screen. But yeah, as you mentioned, a very different kind of role. Not that you haven't had experience playing intense roles, but a deeply unpleasant character. And interestingly, obviously, you yourself now as an adult actor worked with a child actor very intimately. And what was that process like? Because obviously playing an adult abuser, there's a lot wrapped up in how you create that relationship authentically with your co-actors, isn't there?
Yeah, I think, we were very lucky. We had a few rehearsals before we started filming, just for the younger actor to get used to me. and the way I'd be playing the character. So he saw me as myself for a few days before the shoot. So by the time we were on set, we knew it was all fun, and like anything where I had to be a bit rough with him physically, we did that as though we were doing like a stunt fighting scene to make it safe and fun for him rather than feeling threatened. And then as soon as the cameras would cut, I would make sure I came, completely out of role and would talk to him and mess around with him in a fun way. So we kept everything really light on set, just because it is a very dark role and the research was really difficult. So we wanted to keep the experience of filming happy.
Tell us about that research then. What was your process getting into a role that was obviously antithetical to your usual type?
I think, I've been to some places where I've been around people like that, so that helped. I also did a lot of research into alcoholism, why people drink, and how alcohol affects behaviour. So it was, and then I had to do a lot of sort of research. It was very dark, and listening to victim stories, listening to people who have been abusive and why they did it, listening to them being very honest about why they were that way. So it was quite heavy research and not particularly pleasant.
No, sure, yeah. And obviously, when you're playing a very flawed character, you don't just want to play the issue, do you? You're searching for, well, I suppose the light in amongst the shade for the character. So you did a lot of research. How did you kind of absorb that? Was it a lot of actors do a lot of reading and then almost try and just forget it in the playing of the moments? Is that something that an approach that you would take as well? Or?
Yeah, I kind of change depending on what I'm doing. I change how I prepare, and that's constantly being adapted as I do each new role and learn new things and learn how to be a better actor as well. So obviously, you just get stronger as you go on in your profession. So yeah, for me, I wanted to get as much research. So I always start by researching anything. If I'm going to do a war movie, I'll research the war and what it was like to live back then. So in this case, it was researching child abuse and animal abuse and alcoholism and people's behaviour. And then from that, I then start building the character along with the director. If he's got anything he really wants me to put in, we'll work together quite closely.
Yeah, with this director, Matthias Labir, was there anything particularly unique about his process?
I think that often with film you don't get a chance to rehearse at all. Like you turn up and you straight on screen. You'll block out the scene and then you'll shoot it. And you maybe just met your co-star about 3 hours ago in makeup or something. So or the day before the read through. It's quite a fast process. So it was nice just to have sort of a week before the shoot just to rehearse, and just meet everybody and get comfortable doing that sort of thing.
Very
really nice.
luxury in work for cinema. Is that the biggest difference you've noticed? I suppose the majority of your work's been on screen, but of course you've worked in theatre as well. Would that be the biggest difference in between stage and screen work that you've noticed, or are there others that are equally kind of evident?
Yeah, there's lots. I mean, that's obviously a very big one, is that you don't get rehearsal time for screen work. But I think it's also just the way you perform. I mean, on screen, it's very subtle. There's not much movement. It's all in your eyes. On stage, you have to be very big. And I always forget that now when I do stage work. I'm like not moving. And no one can tell what I'm doing because I'm so used to performing for camera now. So it's, some actors are wonderful. They can really adapt between stage and screen. For me, I'm much more comfortable in front of a camera just because the performance is smaller than it is on stage.
And closer, I suppose.
And closer.
Yeah,
it's a lot more intimate, I think.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to screen work then. So the film Three Lives was another role that sort of dealt with particularly challenging material. Tell us about that film and your role in it.
So that film, well, it was interesting. I did a film called Crystal's Shadow 2 years before, with the same producers, and then they were doing Three Lives, and Thora Birch was attached to play the role. And there was a huge scheduling conflict and the dates didn't work. So 2 days prior to the shoot, the producers phoned me and said, can you be in this? We can't find anybody else in this time frame.
This is a repeating pattern, Mhairi, of these kind of very last-minute call-ups.
Yeah, I have been quite lucky. There was quite a while I got a lot of work without auditioning.
I mean, that's wonderful, but it's also a challenge, sort of never not being familiar with the script and then suddenly being on set, having to craft a new person.
Yeah, I mean, that was particularly challenging because I had 2 days prep only, and then I was flown to Germany to start the shoots. We filmed over in Germany.
And for an actor who embraces and likes to do research for a role, But you did a lot of reading in that 48 hours.
Yeah, so I really relied on the director, Julianne, who's still a good friend of mine. We still work together. Mm-hmm. I really relied on her to guide me through it because the script's quite complicated. It's a psychological thriller, and I'm actually sort of playing two separate identities as well.
Right.
So there were times when I had to be the one identity or the other, but I only got to read through the script a couple of times, once on the plane on the way there as well. And then I did, as soon as I arrived in Germany, they took me straight into a rehearsal room and read through. We did a big read through with the other cast members. And then it was, then we went from Berlin all the way into the mountains to where we were filming. So I got about a day of prep.
That's a roller coaster. That is really interesting, and a kind of, you've got choices as an actor there if you're playing that sort of dual personality, haven't you? I suppose maybe it's always a mixture of the two, but I guess you could choose to literally create two separate characters, or look at one kind of through line for the one character, and well, you tell me, how did you go about that?
Well, for this film, she didn't want to have two big different personalities. Mm-hmm. It was to be very subtle because you're not meant to find out until the end.
Right.
So I had to only have like little moments where it would show that something else is going on. But then I had to also not. So I was playing that I didn't know that I was like that, even though I did know that I was like that. Yeah. So it was all these different combinations of things that I had to play. So it was just about being as subtle as possible, but marking through in the script where those key points are.
I suppose that way, not doing the audience's job for them, I suppose, and not playing the end of the script before before they've reached it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
What was the premise? I mean, you've told us a little bit, or a delicious hint of what your character's like in 3 Lives, but what's the actual film's premise?
So she's a therapist, and she gets raped, and to find her rapist, she ends up stuck in the mountains with these 2 men, and one of them was accused of raping her. And I won't give away what the other one is.
No spoilers, huh?
And so it's all about, she's sort of, it's a survival film, but it's also her way of figuring out who actually committed the crime. So it was interesting.
Yeah, and lovely. Yeah, no, don't. Yeah, we'll entice people to go and watch 3 Lives themselves and find out. Locations sounded amazing there. How did you enjoy all that location shooting out in the mountains?
It was lovely. My family, some of my family are German, so it was nice to shoot there as well and experience that. And Berlin was great, so I got to be there for a couple of days before filming. And then we went into the mountains, and the scenery is just gorgeous. But it rained the entire month we were filming in the mountains. And there were times where we were slipping over in the mud, and the camera was sinking, and the lights were sinking in the mud. And
bit of a challenge.
Well, it was like filming The Reverend. It was really rough.
So we can expect your Oscar nomination shortly in that case. You've also worked in TV. Do you notice any difference when you're acting, when you know it's going to be on the small box in the corner of the living room or the big screen in the cinema?
Yes, I mean, obviously the performance is the same because it's screen and it's small, but for TV it goes a lot faster. Um, for film, it's often that things will just run over, and the contingency fund allows for that. And obviously the deadline isn't as fast approaching, but for TV everything happens very, very quickly. So it's just you get your lines sort of the night before, things can change quite rapidly. It's a very quick process, so you have to be on your game quite fast, which I think is a little bit scary. It was definitely, it's something I actually want to do more TV to practice that, because I've done quite a few films now and I'd like to transition over to television.
Speaking of diversifying, you've started producing and directing in the last year or two. How did that come about? Was it something you'd always wanted to do, move behind the camera?
It was something that had always interested me, and my boyfriend actually said, I think you should do a short film. I think it'd be really good for you. I think you'd really enjoy it, because I'm just so interested in how productions get started. So it all kind of happened very quickly because I decided to direct and produce my own short film, which I'd written, called Gaslight. And then at the same time, when I told Julianne, who I'd worked with on Through Lives, who I was just about to start another movie with, I told her that I was starting to produce because it's something that interests me, and she was like, "Oh, well, why don't you come and produce this feature with me as well?"
Wow.
And I'd also agreed to do another short film, so I ended up producing 3 projects all in 4 months.
Bloody hell. It's a busy time, isn't it?
And I'd never produced before, so that was, it's an interesting experience.
A steep learning curve. And what did you learn from it? I mean, presumably a lot.
It was the biggest learning experience of my life over those few months. So I filmed the 2 shorts, one of them that I directed in January, and then I went straight onto the feature, which I was on for over a month, and then I did the other short at the end. And it was just, the hours, you're lucky if you sleep. I think I got 4 hours sleep a night for about 4 months, working weekends. And then you've got to be so organised, and working with a budget, because the short film I self-funded.
Right.
But with the feature, obviously, we had a big budget for that. So it was working with that amount of money, just being responsible for where that money goes.
And you had an acting role in the feature film too, of course. Yeah. So even less sleep then. How the hell did you manage that?
That was definitely challenging. Luckily it was Julianne, the director, she was one of the producers. I was one of the producers. The writer was, and actually Paul, my partner, came on as the cameraman and one of the producers as well. So there was a team of us that made it easier, and we hired amazing production assistants, and it just wouldn't have happened without them. Because while we were on set, they kept everything running around the film, made sure the food was there and things. But it was really challenging. It's hard to, so I would sometimes get a bit of information like, "Oh, Mhairi, we're filming in this big house, this very old property," and then something like a window would get broken or something. And I would hear like, "Oh, Mhairi, one of the windows has been smashed by the gaffer, and we might get kicked off the location." I'm going, "Okay, I'll deal with that in a minute. I've just got to go and record this."
Yeah, so at that same moment.
I got my mobile afterwards to sort it out. So it was,
well, at least you'd had that experience of playing sort of 2 roles in 3 lives to draw on.
Yeah.
So, the feature film that we're talking about, by the way, I don't think I mentioned the names there, was the Curse of Hobbes House, right? Which is a zombie movie. So another, not the kind of grittier sort of realism that we've discussed in some of your other projects. So it sounds like a lot of fun. Was it?
Yeah. It was lots of fun. It's quite a light film, which was nice because I've done so many dark roles and sort of dark subjects. So it was nice to do something that's, it's a zombie film, and it was it's a comedy zombie film as well, so it's all like a bit silly and a bit fun.
Yeah.
So that was great, and I got to do a lot of my own stunts and that, sort of falling out of windows and all sorts of things.
Excellent. Yeah, we haven't mentioned another one of your skills is one of the cooler martial arts. Now you'll have to pronounce it for me, but it is the martial art that we see in the Bourne films and in the Mission Impossible films, isn't it? Mhairi, go on. What's it called?
It's called Krav Maga.
Of course it is. Have you enjoyed using those skills on set?
I have, and actually I train in York. That's where my training group is. And yeah, it's become very, very useful. I think as many skills as you can have as an actor is going to help you get work. Often you can be cast just from your skills alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, develop your hinterland. Make use of your hobbies and broaden your skills. It's always going to help you because casting directors are often on the lookout for things you might not have thought of, aren't they? Yeah. Moving back to Gaslight then as a director, what new challenges did you come up against there? This is another production that deals with abuse and violence, and so it's obviously a topic which interests you. I mean, it's obviously a topic that is ripe for dramatic interpretation for anyone seeking to make affecting drama. What were your aims as a director with Gaslight?
So it's a film about domestic abuse and the different forms. So verbal, physical, there's financial, mental, psychological. There's so many different forms of abuse that domestic abuse has. So I wanted to show the different forms, how it develops and where it's learned from, and also the signs, just to sort of raise awareness for people. And I wrote the script. Some was from sort of personal things, and others was from experiences of people who I, have met and know, and they were happy to share their story. So I developed the script, and it's actually quite a long short film. It's 20 minutes, which for short films is very long. Most are sort of 5 to 10. But to get it all the information across, I made it 20. And I also wanted to show that it's not only women that get abused, but also men. So that was a key part in the story. It's sort of 3 different couples, and they all interweave. 2 of the people being abused are women, and then the last couple you see, you're going to assume that it's the woman also being abused, but in fact it's the man that's being abused. So that was also important to show that it can equally happen to men.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Are you I mean, COVID allowing and assuming there is a festival circuit, are you planning to take Gaslight out on the road?
Yeah, it's already in festivals.
Oh,
and it's already been screened at festivals, and we were the finalists at the New York Cinematography Awards.
Oh, congratulations! That's really exciting. Yeah, brilliant. Well done.
So we've got lots of festivals lined up as well. So it will be in festivals for next year.
Excellent. Well, all the best with that. You pointed out, of course, that in Gaslight you take both gendered perspectives there, but you do tell a lot of stories as an actor, now as a director, from a woman's point of view, or with a woman's point of view at the center. Is that a big motivation for you in choosing roles, or is it something important to you as you move forward in your career?
I think it's partly what I tend to just get cast in. What a lot of actors, and I'm sure lots of other actors have found this as well, that as soon as you do one thing, you constantly get cast in similar things. So as soon because I sort of do these tragic roles, I tend to just get sent all these sort of parts. So it would be nice to do something else. But yeah, I think I'm really interested in obviously female stories and telling stories from a woman's point of view. But for me, it's just about the script as a whole, and doing something different, the chance to do a new skill, or sort of tell a new story, so whether it's zombies because I haven't done it before, or it's about that. It's period dramas, it gives you something new to research and learn. So I like any opportunity to do that. But I always found that whenever I watched movies when I was younger, the male roles, I loved the male roles and always wanted to play the male roles as a woman. So I think now the industry's starting to shift. We're much more open to those sort of parts that are just a little bit more interesting and a lot more layers to them.
Absolutely, and not before time. What are we going to see you in next, Mhairi?
I've got a few things coming up. I've just done some filming with Sky TV, but I can't say too much about it just yet. That'll be coming out soon. And I've got a couple of films that I'm attached to. Two of them I'm producing as well. So at the moment, we've just finished casting a Western film, which we will.
Oh, fantastic. Finally, then, have you got any advice? I ask all my guests this for young aspiring actors who are perhaps considering going to drama school or maybe have done that stage of their education and are about to make their first steps into the industry. Any words of wisdom to pass on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, quite a lot. One, just work really hard. I mean, it's really a lot of hours that you've got to put in. I'm constantly learning new things. I'm learning a language at the moment because that could be useful on my CV. So just constantly practice your skills, learn accents.
What language are you learning?
Learning German, actually. So it's just about doing as much as possible and always keeping busy. I'm never bored. So even if I'm not filming for a week, I'm not just sitting around waiting for my agent to call me. I'm like, what can I learn? Who can I connect with? Who can I network with? It's constantly keeping up the contacts. And while also understanding that it isn't just easy and you can't just fall into the industry and suddenly get lucky and suddenly become, a big overnight success. It's very, very rare. But also understanding that incredible things can happen. And 1 minute you can be really struggling, and then the next minute the hard work suddenly just pays off in a direction you didn't expect it to. And you do get lucky and you do get work. So it's understanding that if you keep just working hard, you will get there in some form. But don't feel down if it's not coming straight away. It will eventually hit.
There is hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Amazing things can happen.
You're testament to that. Mhairi, thank you so much. Really enjoyed that chat, and it's been great hearing all about your career and going from strength to strength, I'm sure. Thank you very much. My thanks to Mhairi Calvey for a wonderful chat. We look forward to seeing her become an even more successful actor, director and producer in future years. And my thanks to you for listening to this episode of the Acting for Stage and Screen podcast. See you next time. Before you go, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about our new acting training degree, the BA Acting for Stage and Screen ALRA endorsed. This is a unique drama school informed training delivered at the York College University Centre, and is suitable for students who are determined to become professional actors working in today's theatre, film and TV industries. It's unique in a few ways. Firstly, because this course is created with and endorsed by ALRA, the Academy of Live and Recorded Arts. ALRA are one of the UK's very top drama schools, and bring with them a national and international reputation for excellence in higher education drama training. Our close partnership with such a well-respected drama school will be invaluable for our training professionals. Another way we're unique is that our course is a 2-year accelerated degree. So you can achieve your degree, become a professionally trained actor, and enter the acting profession more quickly, and with fees of only £8,640 a year. This is because we're really conscious that the overall cost of funding degree study has massively increased over recent years, and a 2-year accelerated programme will be vastly less expensive than the conventional 3-year drama training route, especially when you take into account living costs, fees over the lifetime of a course, and shorter time studying before entering the profession. It's a full honours degree with 26 hours of contact time per week, and a wide range of opportunities to perform and to network with industry professionals. If you decide at the end of the 2 years that you want to continue your studies, then there is the possibility of studying at master's level at ALRA. So if this sounds like the kind of place you can imagine yourself being, learning practically how to be an actor on both stage and screen, and getting loads of really meaningful performance experience, being seen by industry professionals, and maybe going on to do a master's at ALRA, or just getting into being a working actor quicker than your peers, then you need to apply to the BA Acting for Stage and Screen ALRA Endorse through UCAS, course code BA45. You'll be asked to audition with us, and if you're successful, we will work with you to make your experience an exceptional 2 years, which will set you on the course towards your future success. Keep following us on Instagram at York College BA Acting for exciting announcements throughout the year, and do keep listening and subscribe to the Acting for Stage and Screen podcast for more conversations with fantastic theatre, film and TV industry guests in the future.